Commissioners, I'm respectfully going to ask that we continue with the process we started yesterday. We got to RR18, but what is left should only be audio and video. And I suppose I can ask for the admission as we go along.
Certainly.
And so we're ready by 2 o'clock so that all on Sunday can verify as we talk. But in the meantime, I will not get my DRO sitting there. We'll collect all the packages, but arrange them because we'll be starting with South Georgetown first. Arrange them in order, right? And then send them to the encoding, and then come back. By which time I expect by 2 o'clock everybody should have the order that we will be setting up to start the verification process. So we'll just halt for a while to arrange that. Good?
Very early in the morning of the 3rd, that was Mr. Mingo, the returning officer, explaining how the tabulation and ascertainment process was going to take place. That was in front of the observers as well as all the party agents. So what he's explaining on the video was that they were going to collate all of the SOPs for Georgetown and put them in a particular order, and the parties were advised that they need to, they can get some time to put their SOPs in order and follow him as they were going through the SOP. So the crucial thing about this video is that it identified how Mr. Mingo on the morning of the 3rd, as the SOPs are coming in, had identified the process, the tabulation process to be.
So for my own benefit, could I ask that it be replayed, please?
Sure. Could you replay it, and is there any way to enhance the sound a little bit?
Yes.
And so we're ready by 2 o'clock so that all on Sunday can verify as we talk. But in the meantime, I will not get my DRO sitting there. We'll collect all the packages, but arrange them because we'll be starting with South Georgetown first. Arrange them in order, right? And then send them to the encoding, and then come back. By which time I expect by 2 o'clock everybody should have the order that we will be setting up to start the verification process. So we'll just halt for a while to arrange that. Good? So
Where was he speaking? This was in the Ashman's building.
That is correct.
Exactly where?
It's in a tabulation room.
He was in the tabulation.
That is correct.
And who was present by your recollection?
That would be the party.
One moment. Yes, present were
the various party agents and all observers from the international and local bodies.
Thank you.
Might this be admitted as RR19?
Yes, admitted as R19.
Next video, please.
Says abandon me, says has left, says he will go with whatever order is. Please take your rubbish and leave.
After. and asked everyone, literally evicted everyone from the building. People were put out of the building.
Did you take this video yourself?
No, we were just out of it, but a colleague that was in the building took it and sent it to me.
Okay, so we need to start it from the beginning. Yeah, with volume.
AMCHAM that are here to
Says abandoned, we say says has left, he said he will go with whatever order is. Please take your rubbish and leave. The police is in here now, they put him in.
So we have heavily armed ranks that are coming in here now to. We have heavily armed ranks that are here to physically remove us from here.
Leave, arrest them. If you fail to leave, they arrest you. So they're coming right squad and they say we have to leave. Huh?
Yes, that's them. Yeah, but they're moving me out of the place now. I'm telling you, so every company will be exited now. Yeah, I tell you, let me get some lights. I take up these lights. Yeah. What? When the people have to go to the place, people go out, yeah, just walk them out. Just walk them out.
Can I get those lights?
Sorry, no, you need to exit. No, you need to exit. Just collect these stuff. You should have been doing that long ago. We got time for wasting doing that long ago. I don't have time for wasting this stupidness. Yeah, no problem, sir. Good. I was the commander told us
You're a politician officer?
Let's go.
The commander told us to stay under it. We was told to stay here by the car.
So you're being physically removed from the building? The heavily armed ranks?
Watch out.
Exit the barrier.
All those SOB left, we are unattended without locking, right?
Supposed to be upholding
the place in lock, right? Why they didn't see that the place is locked?
Well, I see that the place is locked.
Why we see them put on a chain, they have to put a chain to be let.
Yeah. Well, I see that. Around respect.
Yes. I am asking that you let them put the chain, the people from G-Com put the chain on, please.
Yeah. And I would like to see that.
Earlier to put a chain. I am asking now for y'all to let them put the chain on, please.
Yeah, please help us with that.
So who is the commander?
Advice.
Who is it? Could we have a chain on the building, please? Hello, sir. Could we have a chain on the? Could we see the door locked before we leave here? Could we see the door locked before we leave here?
That is our right.
Could we see the door locked before we leave and get the key? Yes. Let me just see how the door there before anybody go in and take anything at present right now.
They can't touch you, officer.
Don't need touch the mistake.
Can't touch you. So that door behind you there, it's unattended. Don't insult the ranks. They have their jobs to do. The reality is that the police have been instructed. They have to carry out their instructions, and that is the reality. So we understand that much. Our fight here is not with the police, the Ghana Police Force. Our issue is with the Ghana Elections Commission and an illegal regime.
That we fight so hard for, and that is there. We are asking for it to lock.
and an illegal regime that is using every single aspects of the state to suppress our freedom or democracy. That is our issue. We do not have any issue with the Guyana Police Force. We understand that they have their jobs to do. They have their instructions. But this madam promised us to secure that door minimum if she forced us out.
One person. One alone. The door is locked.
So very key, right? We gotta get a key, right? Gotta get a key. You check it. Let's go. Check it out. Why you can't have the key? Why you can't have the key? She locked the door and she moved without giving us a key, right? She told us earlier that she have
Go beyond the police.
She said she have a chain to put on it. Now she locked the door and she carrying the key. It makes no sense she locked the door and she carrying the key.
So how do we know that you're not going to come back in this building? You have several entrances to the building.
I set up people there in there, you know.
But look what's going on. Look what's happening. They are closing the building with people inside it. You just saw it there. Persons are inside that building and they're closing it.
Right up again. The thing is, they didn't give me a key. They lock it and she just walk away with the key. That is the thing that we protecting all week there and now. All the time they had no problem. Even tonight the commander said we could stay under the protection.
Just a second. I want to ask you a few questions. Did I ask for this to be admitted yet?
No.
Okay, might it be admitted as RR 19, please? 20. Ma'am, the video started with us seeing a woman saying, "Take your rubbish and go." First of all, where was she?
She was outside of the tabulation center, the room, and then entered into the building to say that everyone should leave.
Okay, and she said, "Take your rubbish
That is
and
correct.
leave." And who was
Officer Ms. Roxanne Myers.
okay. And the officers we saw coming in, those were the TSU officers?
Yes, that is correct.
The gentleman in the pink shirt, who was he?
He was one of the observers, I think, with the Private Sector Commission.
Attached to the
Private Sector Commission.
Was this the occasion on which Ms. Gill was arrested?
Sorry?
Was this the occasion?
No. That was that was earlier in the afternoon on the 5th when they had this commotion with the chairman being locked in a room.
Yes.
That was a different incident earlier that day.
And we saw the exterior of the building. Was that the exterior of Ashman's building?
That is correct.
And we saw that the officers were standing in front of the entrance to Ashman's building,
That is correct.
blocking the entrance to Ashman's
That is
building.
right.
And we saw the grill coming down.
That is correct.
And we also saw Ms. Myers appearing to lock the tabulation room,
She
correct?
did lock it, yes, that's correct.
Is there anything about that video, anything else about that video that you think might be important for us?
Yes, that night was, which is the night of the 5th, and let me just backtrack a little bit. AMCHAM observers, with myself included, were there, and we were among the last observers to evacuate the building. And so that was when I asked that our colleagues remain behind, particularly the party agents, if somebody can film what's going on so we can keep that in our files. That's how I got access to the video. Although the AMCHAM observers wanted to stay, our head said it was dangerous and therefore we are not allowed to stay. We could not violate that instruction because all other observers had left. And just as soon as we exit the building and enter into the vehicle that would move us away from the building, the riot squad came in. And that's how this video was taken, basically. And what was important in that night was the last, as I exit the building, looked back and saw the SOPs were still there. Interestingly, when Ms. Myers locked the building, the door to the tabulation room as well as the building, that we didn't know what happened to the SOPs thereafter.
Could we show the next video?
Before
Sorry.
we move on. Mr. Rasul, I just want to get this event in context. Prior to this, I understand you to be saying that Mr. Mingo had made some declaration about the results for
That is correct.
District 4.
That is correct.
And you also said that at the time when he made that declaration, there were a number of sub-districts in Region 4 yet to be tabulated.
That is correct.
Now, when Ms. Myers made the announcement, take your rubbish and go, did you understand, well, before I ask you that, let me ask you, Region 4 at that point in time, District 4 or Region 4, was the only outstanding polling division left to be completed?
That is correct. All of the 9 other districts were completed.
So with the announcement of results for District 4, a winner could have been determined.
That is correct.
Do you know if a winner was determined at that point in time?
No, there was no one that said that a particular party had won it, because my understanding was that the Commission of GCOM would subsequently use that declaration in conjunction with the other declarations for the regions to make that announcement of who the winner for the general and regional elections would be.
Okay. So at the point in time when Ms. Myers ordered that everyone leave the tabulation room, did you conclude that this was being asked of everyone in the room because for all intents and purposes, the elections and verification and tabulation, those exercises were over, as far as GCOM was concerned?
As far as GCOM is concerned, but at the same time, I and my colleagues could not understand why we were asked to vacate the building, since earlier there was a commitment that would allow 2 members from each political party to remain in the room, given that there was controversy and an injunction that had been served to prevent the declaration from happening. So from the perspective of the observer, the process had not been completed, and that is why the observers opted to remain with the political party agents in the room to see what was happening next. And that was when we were told to leave.
So it must have been evident to all present who heard the earlier commitment that there was a change of position.
That is correct.
Yes. Might we move on to the next video, please?
So, before the video you saw just now, Ms. Myers came into the room earlier and asked us to leave. No one left. And then subsequently she came the second time, and this is when backup came with the police, not to put everyone out of the building. We were still in the building. Myself and my colleagues were still in the building at this point in time.
So this took place in terms of time before
Correct.
the last video.
That is correct. So this was first.
Sorry.
There was a lull, a break, and then she got the riot police came when she was.
Is this your video?
Yes.
Can you tell us, the policemen who obviously had batons in their hands, they were saying something to people in the room. I couldn't hear very clearly what it was they were saying. Can you help us with what you heard the police saying?
There were various things being said. It was very hostile, and they were saying to get out from here, basically. That was primarily what their utterances were about, just to clear off the building.
Just get out.
Correct.
rule you. He does a statement.
Police will be outside the building. No GCOM, no person will be in the building. It will be shut down.
No, can't trust that.
Rule you. He does a statement.
Police will be outside the building. No GCOM, no person will be in the building. It will be shut down.
No, can't trust that.
I want to ask you, which room is that?
This is also the tabulation room.
And who is the lady speaking, can you say?
That is Ms. Roxanne Myers.
And what is she saying?
So she's saying that the police will be outside of the building and everyone is to vacate it. No GCOM, no party, anyone is to be in the room.
Thank you.
No GCOM.
Yes, she said that in the video.
But I heard it.
So no GCOM was to be.
And might this be admitted as RR 21, please? We will, Commissioners, we will transcribe
Yes.
using the flash drive recording so that you will have a proper record of that.
So tell me, Ms. Rasul, Ms. Myers said the police will be outside the building.
That is correct.
At that point in time, anyone in the tabulation room was able to see a police presence in the vicinity?
There were police present at all times, outside of the tabulation room and outside the building as well. So when she said that, I wasn't sure what exactly was inferred by police will be outside of the room, but my understanding was that can be taken to the context that they're going to assist in evacuating us if we did move.
Yeah. But I suppose you wouldn't know at whose invitation these special ranks came.
No, I do not know that.
Thank you. Next video, please. Now, before you allow the witness to say what this video is, please.
Okay.
Can you tell us what we are about to see?
Right. So I need to draw reference that this is a video that I asked to be sent to me. I have the audio for the exact thing that you're about to see that I captured personally. And the reason why I had the audio and not the video was I was sitting in front, if you notice, there's a white shirt next to the person, that's Mr. Jonathan Yearwood from ANAG. That's me sitting right there in front there. So Mr. Mingo had announced a ban on the use of mobile. So I could not lift my phone up to do a video. Instead, I was able to get the audio. And I do have the audio which was submitted in evidence that captured the exact thing you're about to see here. So this video was from another person in the back who was able to clandestinely lift their phone and record this basically. That's what you're gonna see here is Mr. Mingo on the 12th of March explaining a new process for tabulation. And the audio that I got has the same information on it.
Might this be admitted as RR22? Could we play it?
The numbers I have on my spreadsheet are the numbers that I've extracted from the original statement of polls that were issued to me.
In whose presence?
No. Those are my statement of polls. Mine.
They're property of Guyana, sir.
Could you describe what is the process that is about to take place?
Arrived at these broadsheets. I took each statement of poll input it into our computer, tabulated them, and come up with these broadsheets for each polling station.
Mr. Mingo, how can we verify, excuse me, how can we verify that what you've inputted from your SOPs is the correct figures? That is why we need a verification process.
If you have yours, you can follow me. That's all I'm saying. If you have yours, follow me.
And then if it does not follow?
If it does not follow, then there is a course of action which is specified in the law you can follow.
So no verification of SOPs or SOPs?
No.
But you'll be reading from each SOP.
From this sheet.
No, that's not an SOP. And the law doesn't care for a spreadsheet.
The information on this is extracted from my SOPs.
No, those are this.
Which room are we in there? Attachments?
This is the tabulation room in Ashman's.
And the person at the front who is speaking is whom?
That is the returning officer for this report, Mr. Mingo.
And the gentleman in the orange shirt is whom?
That's Mr. Jonathan Yearwood, who represented an anode party.
And is he the person who asked who extracted the numbers from the SOPs?
No,
who extracted the numbers which were on the spreadsheet? I beg your pardon.
That would be Mr. Nascimento, I believe. I have a transcript of that, but Mr. Yearwood was the one that asked, how could we verify the numbers that you extracted to put on your broadsheet, as Mr. Mingo called it?
Now, we heard a female voice asking, so no SOPs against SOPs, or words to that effect. Who was that?
That was the PPP party agent, Ms. Sonia Parag.
Okay. Is there anything else about that video which you think might be useful to us?
Ms. Myers was seated at your right hand at the back where Mr. Mingo was, so that was evidence that she was right there when Mr. Mingo proceeded to violate the Chief Justice order that the SOPs were to be used for the verification of the tabulation process. So she was sitting right in that room when that was happening.
Okay. Thank you. Could we move on to the next video, please? Before you play it, allow the witness to say, just give us a brief summary of what we are about to view.
So this video, many things are happening. When you listen to it, you're going to hear some clicking sound, and that was me entering the data, the numbers that I was hearing from the GCOM staff as they were calling it out into my laptop. So the clicking sound would be evidence that I was entering the data as they were calling it. And this also would have been when the camera, I had Mr. Schumann sitting right next to me. And because there was just, I didn't have my colleague next to me to assist me with a lot that was going on, so there was just one person to do many things. Observe what was going on in the room, capture the data as accurately as possible, and I was recording at the same time. I actually had Mr. Schumann to just position the camera a little off my computer so I can get a video of what was happening. So you will see in the video the GCOM staff calling out the numbers at rapid pace at the, this is on the morning of the 13th of March. And this is when we were escorted to the media center for GCOM at the back of the building. And so it shows how fast they were calling. It showed that I was entering the data as they were calling that out. And it also gave you a little bit of the scenario as it was happening at that point in time. The video is a little bit slanted because of the way the camera was positioned.
Might this video be admitted as RR23? Could you play it, please?
174 APM.
CG 3, LJP 3, PPPC 107, PRP 0, TCI 1, TNM 0, URP 0, 288.
Mr. Mingo, can I humbly ask that she slows down a little bit so we can get the numbers in?
4057, ANA 0, APNU plus AFC 165, CG 0, LJP 0, PPPC 5 0, PRP 0, TCI 0, TNM 0, URP 0, 215. 4058, Arnold 0, APNU plus AFC 163,
163.
CG 2,
She said 163.
LJP 0, PPPC 7 1, PRP 0, TCI 0, TNM 0, URP 0. 2
Can you recall the name of the person who's calling?
I cannot place that name specifically, but at the beginning of it, there were several names called, and I recorded all of the names. Precisely who was whom, I cannot say.
Sure. And the gentleman sitting next to her is who?
That's Mr. Mingo.
Were you able to say, or can you say, whether she was calling from the statements of court?
I cannot verify that. I
I
was not allowed to see it.
Were these numbers being put up on a screen? Were they being projected on a screen at
No,
that
they were
time?
not. At no point in time during the tabulation of the morning of the 13th was anything projected on any screen.
And we heard a male voice asking Mr. Mingo for the caller to slow down. Who was that?
That was Mr. Lennox Schumann, who was a presidential candidate for the LJP party.
And was there any response at any time by Mr. Mingo to that
Absolutely
request?
none. They just continue as per normal.
Thank you. And is it at this point that you timed you had told us yesterday that you timed the calling of the SOPs, of the numbers, and there were 3 to 4 done in a minute?
So this was earlier on, and at this point I didn't time it, but subsequently I took audio of the call-in, and that was where you're beginning to get to, because the pace was much faster than this actually, and that was where I did the timing.
Okay.
So that was
your
the audio.
timing was on another occasion.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And,
So this-
sorry.
So what we just heard is not what you refer to as the rapid piece.
That is correct. And so at one point in the video, you would hear Mr. Saisnarain Singh turning around. Well, that's when he turned around and showed other observers as well that she just said 160 something, but this is what the SOP said. Then a gentleman in the black that walked across, that was Mr. Saisganraj, who was the commissioner for the PPP on the GCOM's commission. He got up and left after the numbers were not matching. And the second person that got up and left, that was the representative for the URP party that also got up and left, in keeping with all the parties, most of the party members eventually walking out of the room because the numbers were at variance with the SOP numbers.
Thank you. We're going to make another try with the audio.
When I left here, let's do this in a decent way. When I left here, a moment ago, I agreed that there is a process which you will follow. My understanding is that there is a tacit agreement among all concerned that this is what we do. I left to satisfy another subset that we agreed to, as far as the provision of the statements that would have passed through our system. I don't know if you recall, because seemingly we forget pretty quickly. I was called by the agent of the PPP that said to me, I think we have to revert to a process that includes not a broadsheet, but the actual statements.
Yes, yes.
Because if he would have gone through, and this is what I reported to the commissioner, I was with the chair and commissioners, that if we had 6 contains errors, or their variances. I don't know how it's being described, but I understood exactly what was communicated. I discussed this issue with the commissioners. Commissioners are of the view that if we cannot, in an orderly way, resolve whatever is the problem, whatever it is, I don't know, I wasn't here. My broadsheet is working, you were saying it just work. As a result, who gets statement of full? What's the matter that was raised prior while I was here? Let's do this. I said, look, in the interest of time, we'll use my broadsheet. You will make an annotation of the error in serial 1 to 25 or to 192 as it were. Because I did say for reason 4, for the East Bank of 4, is the security out there?
Yeah, they're allowed to unauthorized persons.
That we will revert to the statements to the point it was raised while I was there. Statement to statement will correct and move the process forward. I heard the arguments then, subsequent to the observation of the arguments. I'm told that the gravitas of the situation is that for every Commission of Inquiry calculated, to 1%.
83.
I can't recall based on the amount that you said. So I'm here to listen to you and let us resolve the issue before us in a way that satisfies all.
Yes, first of all, did you do that recording?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell us whose voice is that? Do you recognize it?
Yes, that is the voice of the CEO of GCOM at that time, Mr. Keith Lowenfield.
And essentially, what is he saying?
So that was when the party agent from the PPP had summoned or called Mr. Lowenfield back into the tabulation room because they had seen, or everyone had seen, that there were differences between the broadsheet, as Mr. Lowenfield referred to it in the audio, and what was contained on the SOPs that the party had in their possession. So Mr. Lowenfield said many things in that video. One, he said that the broadsheet was working and that the parties didn't feel that was working.
And when he said broadsheet, was he referring to the spreadsheet
that is
about
correct.
which you spoke?
That is correct. Mr.
Yes.
Mingo was referring to the spreadsheet as a broadsheet.
Yes. Sorry.
So when he said it was working,
That is correct.
but yet he wasn't in the room when it was being
That is
used.
correct.
Yes.
And so he said that he's called there, and that in light of the fact that the broadsheet or the spreadsheet that he said was working and the party said wasn't working, he's here to resolve the matter in a way that's
And essentially he agreed to return to calling from the sequence of polls.
Subsequently.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Might this be admitted as RR 25, please? Sorry. 24, sorry. Yes. So, do we have another audio?
One moment, please.
I beg your pardon.
You had a circumstance where, through the use of the broadsheet, results were being called.
That is correct.
And those results didn't match the figures on the SOPs.
That is correct.
There was the intervention by Mr. Lowenfield, and eventually they returned to announcements from the SOPs.
That is correct.
Are you aware whether there was any correction to the incorrect figures that had been announced through the use of the broadsheet?
There was no correction done to any figure that was on the broadsheet.
Thank you. Could we move to the next one?
As I promised, listened and deliberated, and they have agreed that we will continue the process here with all those who are designated to be here to use statement, v statement. So that is what we'll do for the remainder of the 300 and whatever statements we have uncounted for Region 4. So I think the staff will prepare the statements. So we'll go statements by statement, starting, I take it from 411, 111, A, right down until finish is back. By now I take it the issues of whether we have 67 statements that Joshua not counted would have been resolved. I need to clarify that. Remember, I received a submission that said you have not checked the 67, others said you have not checked 4, others said you have not checked 5, and I had instructed that that exercise go on, well, concurrently with what should have been happening. So, I need to conclude 4. And for the agents and their assistants, once we recommit shortly, be prepared that we'll be working through the evening to bring closure so that we can move to the next substep, which is the declaration of the results of this report. So that is all I'd like to say at this time. We counted statements by statements, yours and mine, for 4, which is the request that was made. It is satisfied, and we move in the process forward.
Mr. Lowenfield, may I just ask one question? Could we have a screen so that we can verify that the process that is completed or being done so transparently here in the presence of the observers and the party agents, that the numbers verified here are accurately inputted, given what has happened today? So, first of all, that we have a screen. There are other regions did that. Region 4 is more resourced than many other regions, and so that could be verified. Secondly, when a sub-district is done, like Region Georgetown, that there will be a printout of all the inputted data and a total, and given to share with all the parties, so that they can then verify this too, if the total, the adding up and the inputting was done accurately, including for the 310 or so, or whatever, that were done already. Could we please have that from you and then share with all the political parties?
Mr. CEO, I've got one further request. The Liberty and Justice Party would like to request that any printout that is furnished by GCOM has the official GCOM stamp to ensure that there is no information that exits without having that legitimate stamp on it.
So you're asking that the arrow stamp be placed in that? We're treating with District 4. Right, so I think you can only receive from 4 because there's a staff here at 4. So if you receive, it's 4. So 2 things. If I hear you on the right, you're saying let the issue of the anxiety of the pause a while. We're going through to ensure transparency to the end. And notwithstanding the time, based on the request you're making, notwithstanding time, we'll proceed to ensure the integrity of the process. Is that my understanding?
That's it. That is it.
Mr. Lowenfield?
Yes, Dr. Bandu.
Yeah. I want to know that the OVP party did not contest the general election in Region 4. How come they have 255 votes?
I'm not getting into that now. We're going through a process now that speaks to the statements. I am not reporting on the returns on the statements. I have, and that is why we're here, I take it, that we'll be taking statements by statements, and I'm sure we'll get to OVP. So I'm not answering the question now. The question will be answered.
Well, then have questions.
Right. So when the process proceeds, you will ask about OVP and so on. So I hope you appreciate that.
OVP is right here. We can speak for ourselves.
Anything? Am I clearly understood? That being the case, ladies and gentlemen?
Procedurally, there's a ruling that we should be limited to what we have at our table. Of course, we don't people fill up the room. But if you notice the opposition, they hear...
We are leaving now, Mr. Williams. Most of us will leave. We're all leaving now. We just came here for 1 year. We are all leaving, and those who are designated will leave.
Before that, can I ask that we increase this figure to 5? I would like to...
Look, Philphila, we walked before. I understand the point was made that we will placate the anxiety in the interest of that, so...
Then that's fine.
All right, I'll contemplate that. Let's start. Let me see.
Then I asked about the street and the street.
Right, so that's what I'm saying.
The part this morning, I said, we had 2 boxes where SOPs were locked into the box. I asked the 2 main parties to go to the QC compound, but I understand that one party said they're no longer interested in doing that.
Which party? Our agent is there and they have been waiting for almost 2 hours now. And the other party did not turn up.
Yes, the other party turned up and yes, Machid said that.
All right, we will, those 2 boxes, we will make sure that we're here to watch them. We send a large number of people to watch that, no more than 2 boxes.
Just to extract the SOP intended for the CEO that was inadvertently placed in that.
And we will walk back with us. And please, the screen, Mr. Lowenfield, the screen.
I hear you.
All right, thank you. Everyone who's not here.
Who's your one, Chief Rector? Yes.
Mr. Rasul,
sorry.
This is just a continuation of what went before.
Correct, that's before Mr. Lowenfield agreed to have the SOPs being used. That was the discussions before that.
By this audio recording be admitted as our 25. Ma'am, there are several voices which we can hear from this audio. This is an audio recording that you made.
That is correct.
So the main voice that we're hearing, is it that of Mr. Lowenfield?
Yes, the first voice that you heard is Mr. Lowenfield. The second voice is that of the then opposition leader, Dr. Barry Jack Dio. The third voice is a presidential candidate for the LGB party, Mr. Lennox Schumann. That was followed by Mr. Bandu, who was the presidential candidate for the URP party. One of the female voices that you heard was the observer for the Guyana Bar Association, Emily Dotson, and then there was Ms. Myers towards the end of it, basically.
Okay. Now, very early in the audio, we heard Mr. Lowenfield referring to a declaration of the results.
Yes.
And I could not hear it clearly. Perhaps you can assist if you did. What was Ms. Myers saying at the end?
So the discussion at the end with herself and Ms. Dotson was centered, it seemed, that there were 3 ballot boxes or SOPs, either one of those two, that seemed to have been somewhere in the compound of the Queen's College, and they were still to retrieve that. So there was, I recall very distinctly, that there was an issue with respect to those 3 ballot boxes.
Okay, thank you. May we move on to the last audio? I think it's the last? No, apparently not. Just a second.
That's the third. 411-111.
411-212-A1.
Actually, this one I'm mistaken.
400. Which one is that, sir? 4013? Yeah.
411-212-A1.
Yes, sir.
You're a cover present food?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. That's the third. 411-111.
411-212-A1.
Actually, this one I'm mistaken.
400. Which one is that, sir? 4013? Yeah.
411-212-A1.
Yes, sir.
You're a cover present food?
Yes.
All right. The AP and UFC 247.
190.
Your
form has 247. Stop misrepresenting this.
Would you like to come again?
Can you show us a copy of that?
Listen to CEO.
Forget me.
Right, so this APNU number, you said it's wrong. The next party 2.
0.
LJP 2. You do with me?
Others have computers here.
Emmanuel must say
247-220-3252.
You want me to PPBC now?
52.
52.
Yeah.
This way statement.
That's what my
statement has 51. Yeah. Original.
Yeah, it's regional. 51. But in the same station, I just want this to get a sense of what is happening. Your sheet is saying AP and UFC has
192.
192.
And that's 247.
And you have AP and UFC.
I was just writing.
Oh.
That's it. These observers. I'm speaking as an observer, sir.
I take you from party. I thought you were.
I said as an observer, sir.
That's why I was saying 10 instead of.
Sir, I said as an observer. Listen. As an observer.
From 247 to 190. All right, there's one. Just one key examples. I'm going to the very next station. The same school, box number 4014. I'm still at regional. Right. 18 regional. 411-21282. Yeah, Cabra Primary School.
Yeah.
APNU AFC 250.
162.
Jesus. Wow. CG 2.
3.
LG
3.
I got it.
60.
It's not 63. PRP 1. Let me take this police call.
They don't want to arrest you.
Might this be admitted as R26? Now, did you take this? Did you make this recording yourself?
Yes, I did.
Take this recording yourself?
Yes, I did.
Is this a recording of what you told us about yesterday when you said he did a comparison
The random sample.
between what was contained in three particular ballot boxes?
That is correct.
And the female voice calling the numbers, which appeared to be different from the numbers Mr. Lowenfield had, was Ms. Barag?
That is correct.
Now, is there anything else about that audio recording that you wish to add, or you think might be important for us to know?
So that was the, like you summarized it, that was the evidence that I personally collected of the spreadsheet having numbers that were at odd with what was on the SOP. And Mr. Lowenfield saw that for himself, and at never any point did he question where those numbers came from or even sought to correct it. And the other voice that you heard was Mr. Tenehusey, who was the observer from the Bar Association, also speaking up to say, well, the numbers were variance basically. So this is a very important voice note, and I was only able to capture 2 out of the 3 samples that he did.
Yes.
Why are you saying this relationship?
Well, at that point, earlier he said that the broadsheet was working, and basically, so this was he didn't believe what the party was telling him that this is there's a big variance, so he was able to take that.
Did he say that?
Sorry?
Did he say that?
So he said.
Did he say that he was not in agreement on the part of?
No, he didn't. He did not say that.
He did not.
He did not say that.
At the beginning of the video, there was someone saying something about, I heard the words observer, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us what you heard there?
That was Mr. Tenehusey, who was the observer for the Guyana Bar Association. So Mr. Lowenfield thought he was a party agent. So because he was actually very vocal in what was happening and advising Mr. Lowenfield that the SOP should be used. And when Mr. Lowenfield thought that he was a party agent, he kept saying he's an observer.
Thank you. Could we move on to the next one?
One more.
Sorry.
Good.
That's a third. 411-111.
411-211.
With minor discrepancies. There was this list that was produced somewhere outside of the scrutiny of the observers and the parties that you presented as the way forward to accelerate the process of verification. Now, the list is being presented, we found several discrepancies. You came here, you did a random sampling, and you found that in all three cases, you had overage for one party, significant overage for one party. If the purpose of the exercise, they're using the spreadsheet, was to accelerate the verification, now clearly that cannot be the mode, given one, its unreliability, that is the list, and two, the time that we're spending now debating this issue. I would suggest that we go back to the use of the statements of goal that nobody had a problem with, and that the RO or your staff call out the numbers, you have a copy of those, the parties check, and then if there are discrepancies, we sort it out just there. That is all we are suggesting to accelerate movement forward and to ensure transparency in the process.
CEO, it's only by way of observation. I'm guided to section 84.1 of the Representation of the People's Act that says that as soon as practicable, the returning office shall, in the presence of such persons, ascertain the total votes cast in favor of each list in the district by adding up the votes recorded in favor of the list in accordance with the statements of poll, and thereupon publicly declare the votes recorded for each list of candidates. I think it would be unfortunate if, as a representative of the Bar Association, I not point out the text of the act that specifies that the statements of poll be the source. By way of mere observation, in light of the Administrative Act to accelerate the process. But
concerning Administrative Act, which is not enshrined in the record.
I know, but the statements of poll must be the source, and that's my observation, sir. And I'm being guided. I just follow instructions.
You're being guided.
Yes, I have lawyers who are my instructors.
Mr. CEO, I heard that Anag was called upon, but no one ever asked the LJP's position. At this point, the Liberty and Justice Party, at this point, the Liberty and Justice Party is in support of being disposed to copies of the SOPs, not in a photocopy format. I think we are entitled to as much, so we can accelerate and get this process done credibly.
You just go.
No disrespect. All right, I've heard all the ladies and gentlemen. I think I can intelligently represent what you have said to me with all the numbers and the percentages and the random that I've done. To Madam Chair and the Commissioners. In the meanwhile, I'll commence preparation of the statements. So I'll be back with you in a jiffy. I just have to go upstairs, communicate to Madam Chair and Commissioners, and I'll be back with you in a jiffy. Okay. Either through me or through an emissary.
Thank you.
One of my staff members.
Thank you very much.
This we admitted as RR 27. Now, you also did this recording.
Yes, I did.
And who is the first voice we heard?
That was the then opposition leader, Dr. Barajang Deo.
And the person making reference to Section 84 of the Representation of the People Act, that was
the observer for the Uganda Bar Association, Mr. Tenny Houston.
And we heard another voice after that.
That was Mr. Lennox Schumann, who was a presidential candidate for the LJP party.
Sure. And the last voice we heard was that of the CEO saying that he would be back in a jiffy, saying he had to go upstairs to consult with the Commissioner.
That is
and
correct.
Madam Chair.
That is correct.
Thank you. Now, apart from what I have identified, is there any other material from this audio that you think might be of use to us?
And this I can just put this forward as my observation. It was for me, Mr. Lowenfield said that he had to consult with the commission, the chairman and the commission. Oftentimes, the commission from the the PPP, the commissioner for the representative PPP and the GCOM often seemed at odds and variance to decisions that were being communicated to the party agents and observers. So I thought it was pretty interesting that he was constantly referencing getting back to the commission for a decision, but then we would always see either discrepancies or there were disagreements between the PPP commissioners and Mr. Lowenfield on what was happening.
Okay, thank you. Could we move on to the next one?
It results in a reduction of PDP votes and an increase in the approved votes. There is another component.
In the 16.
In the 17. There is a consistency.
And every time I relayed, I also relayed the number of votes cast in that division on the statement of polls signed by the presiding officer.
But the police locked the door for me because I'm fearful that
the police remove all the unauthorized persons who are not wearing ID badges.
I was stopped from filming just now.
But what are they recording in here?
I was stopped from filming.
Rules were made for...
It's a public process. I'm engaged here with the agents of the party. A public process.
So feel the pointer...
No, I just want to ease those who do not belong, okay? That's all. I see the presidential candidate, I acknowledge his presence, so I really don't have a problem.
What about the others?
But CEO might also make because I was here yesterday.
Yeah.
I was here yesterday, and while there were about 300 or more of the statement of polls being compared to other statement of polls by the GCOM, we had no issues. We had very minor issues as compared to today when we were dealing with the broadsheet and the statement of polls.
So there's a fundamental, I was here also, fundamental difference in the process. We had very, very few discrepancies yesterday, and they were resolved by the end of the process. Today, 17 of the 21 boxes we've dealt with are all over for the APNU by 100 votes each. That's 1,700 votes. It's a fundamental systematic difference. It has to be addressed.
The total number of votes, the total number of votes is also changing to accommodate this mix.
May I make an observation?
I hear and I understand.
See, may I make an observation? Insofar as the process you have identified with the verification at the end of the going through the broadsheet, with the trend of errors now, it will be quite similar going through the SOPs as if we had done them right now. We have 21, and save for 3, there are problems with all the regional results. And we have 13 to 22 right now.
4 years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am doing it by hand. So, but my observation is that if we accept their verification process at the end, we will still have to go back to at least the first 22 SOPs. So there's a need to manage time effectively, and that is my observation. Yes.
Why we had a meeting here, which wasn't a bad idea, we continue. The process now to 21. Only 3 are good.
I hear that, though.
That is the part. So if we accept your back-end verification of the errors, it is still going to extend it. That's my observation.
Let's do it right the first time around.
That's we accommodate your resolution.
But we try to find out what's the basis of the contention, the narrative. The narrative they try to put out. I don't know. I came here for process. Creative process. And then all I broke loose after this. So I'm not too sure what's going on. I don't know how they're making these statements in the manner that they do. And who determines whether there's an error? I hope that we heard. So it's clear from where we sit here that these errors are certainly errors in estimation of the persons making it. They're not objective errors. And my understanding of the law and the competency of COI is that COI has full independence in determining its procedure. So if COI says this is the procedure, that is the procedure. Nobody could direct COI. Nobody could tell COI what to do in the conduct of its functions. So I don't know what to say. I really didn't want to get involved today in this exercise. But the views of the women that are representing COI, I am saying to you, it's shameful. The way to tell the CEO left when he started abusing the women of COI. And you almost stop this man and say, come back. Self-timorous you are.
Thank you. Mike, this we admitted as RR 28. Now, the last voice we heard where someone was saying that the errors with the figures were subjective. Whose voice is that?
That is the voice of Mr. Basil Williams, who was the Attorney General in 2020.
Okay. And
representing the AP and UAFC.
Okay. And who was this part of the earlier conversation that we heard?
That is correct.
And who else was speaking during that audio?
You had Ms. Sonia Parai, who was a party agent for the PPP, Mr. Sais Narayan Singh, who was a party agent for the PPP, and you had the observer for the Ganda Bar Association, Mr. Tenny Husey, who was also speaking in that video.
And they were still talking about the same issue, that is to say the difference between the numbers on the spreadsheet, which had by this time been found to have been different from the numbers taken from the statements.
That is correct.
And there was a continuing discussion about returning to the use of SOPs against SOPs for verification.
Yes. And so, interestingly, in this audio, it was there were several voices representing different parties and observers that spoke about returning to the process of using SOPs versus SOP, except for the AP and AFC, that felt that and there was a point in the video where Mr. Williams said that no one should direct GCOM how to do their work.
I see. So is it correct to say that this discussion took quite a long time?
Yes, it did.
Thank you. Yes, that was our 28. Can we move on to the next one?
To be clear, both sides of each statement before three. Therefore, please not interrupt.
I'm sorry if you're saying things that don't comply with the act.
Please do not interrupt me, sir. If your opinion that it does not comply with the law, then you can take other recourses. I will stand my ground and I will read from broadsheet.
The returning officer decides on the way forward. Observers are observers, they must go the road.
Is this the same audio?
No,
or has it moved on to the down? Yes. Okay, so could this audio be admitted as RR29? Now, is this audio from the same date that we were talking about earlier?
No, this is the audio for the 12th of March, when the tabulation was supposed to resume after the Chief Justice ruling.
And is this your recording?
That is correct. This is the audio that I referenced earlier, that I could not use my mobile to get the video, but I got the audio instead. And the voice that you heard there is Mr. Mingo and the former, the deceased chairman, commissioner for GCOM, Ms. Bibi Shadiq.
And what did Mr. Mingo say?
He was explaining that he was going to be using the broadsheet in less words than that, and this is where Ms. Bibi Shadiq was saying, attempted to say that, you know, he's deviating, and he told her not to interrupt him.
Okay. Thank you. Might we move on to the next one?
Officer decides on the way forward. Observers are observers. They must know the role to observe.
I'm just asking with regard to...
So what nonsense?
Why is this woman
doing this here?
With regard to her honest ruling today.
Honor rule not so that the people that must sit down, you can make a difference.
Do you have those instructions?
The Chief Justice said you all want to sit down and kindle your businesses. What are you telling me now about observers and SOP and ZOP and QRP? Look, let this thing go on, yes?
4680.
Observers is observers.
0.
That's subject of
APMU AFC.
That is disgusting.
CG 1. LJP 2. PPPC 305.
Hi. Don't worry with me, you know. You don't worry with me.
0.
If they say you tell them not me.
TC.
You ever tell you not me?
0.
I'm not going to be. Here you be. You know who I am?
Excuse me, are you
No. She got any right to tell you you must speak up in this yard? I know how to speak like a trained soldier. I know how to speak loud. Good.
URP 0.
Might this be admitted as RR30? Ma'am, did you do this recording?
Yes, I did.
And there is a female voice overriding every other voice on this audio. Can you tell me whether you recognize that voice?
Yes, I do. That is the voice of Ms. Carol Joseph, who was the party agent representing the APNU AFC.
And at the beginning, we heard another female voice trying to speak and ask a question. Do you recognize that voice?
Yes, I do. That was the observer for the Guyana Bar Association, Ms. Pauline Chase.
And during this entire process, was the count continuing?
Yes, it was. So, and that was heard very clearly in the audio that whilst this argument was going on very heated and very loudly, GCOM staff was still calling the numbers from some document in front of them.
Sure. Is there anything else about this audio that you think might be of use to us?
So this was the audio, or part of the audio, where the attack, the verbal attack was made on observers, and just saying that they should really know their role and their position, basically. And it was, I don't know if it's this or the other one there, where Miss Pauline Chase was threatened that she'll be stamped or stomped. I'm not sure, but I heard the word stamped on it.
Thank you. Okay, so can we move on to the next one, please?
No, don't take her on. We're only talking to Mr. Nobody else.
How can I say this happening is I'm not taking questions now. All I'm asking is I am not taking questions now.
So when will you be able to question?
That's my personal decision. I am not.
So you're a public officer. You answer to the people of
paid by the taxpayers to do a job. You're accountable to the taxpayers.
And sir, we don't have any way to verify the security features on those SOPs. That's what the court orders.
Yes. Right, thank you. Might this be admitted as RR31? Now, I hear a male voice saying, I'm not taking questions now. Whose voice is that?
That was Mr. Mingo, and this audio, which I took, was at the headquarters of GCOM in the afternoon of the 13th of March.
And I'm sorry, I couldn't get it clearly from where I'm standing, but are you able to assist us as to the high points of what that audio contains?
Yes, the audio started with Ms. Carol Joseph, again arguing with party agents who were raising objection to what Mr. Mingo was doing, and they were asking him questions, that is, in terms of the procedure, and he was constantly saying that he is not taking any questions, and that thereafter the party agents continue to tell him that this is wrong, and I'm just paraphrasing that, this is not right, and so forth.
Thank you.
So that was what that audio was about, the argument taking place at that point.
Sure.
Can you tell us, I believe the decision of the Chief Justice was on the 11th,
That is correct.
and the process resumed on the 12th?
That is correct.
And what was the day of the shift to the GCOM's Kingston headquarters?
This was the 13th of March. We started the morning at Ashman's building on the 13th. We were at the Ashman's building in the media center where the tabulation resumed. Then there was that interjection of the court proceedings, and Mr. Mingle left to go to court. And when he returned to the tabulation center in Ashman's building, he announced that they would just shift to the afternoon at the GCOM headquarters. So this was sometime after 4 p.m. on the 13th of March at GCOM's headquarters.
Thank you.
Can we go on to the next one?
CG2, LJP0, CPPC41, PRP0, CCI1, PNM0, URP0, 264. For 112, Anna.
I just admitted as R32. Is this the voice of a female GCOM employee calling numbers?
That is correct, and this is back at the Ashman's building in the media center.
Okay, so this is in the morning of the 13th?
The 13th, that is correct.
Thank you.
So this is one of the evidence where it showed how rapidly they were calling, and the sound, like I mentioned, you would heard that clicking sound was when I was trying to enter the information into the spreadsheet that I had on my laptop.
Thank you. Could we go to the next one?
Box on part 744, Anna 0, APNF 244, CG 0, LJP 0, PBC 6, PRP 0, PCI 0, PNF 0, URP 0. Box number 4745, Anna 0, APNF 285, CG 0, LJP 0, PPC 4, PRP 0, PCI 0, TNM 0, URP 289. Box number 4746, Anna 0, APNF 224, CG 0, LJP 0, PPC 6, PRP 2, PCI 0, TNM 0, URP 1, 233. Box number 4747, Anna 1, APNF 387, CG 1, LJP 0, PPC 3, PRP 0, TCI 0, TNM 0, URP 37. 37. What's the box number?
4747.
Anna 1, APNF 387.
Listed as RR32. So is 33. Is it correct to say that this is the voice of another GCOM employee
That is
calling
correct.
numbers?
Yes, and this is at the Ashman's building again. On
Right.
the 13th.
Now, while this was happening, were the numbers being projected on a screen?
No, it was not being projected on the screen.
Thank you.
So the only time numbers were projected when you moved to the GCOM building.
That is correct. And while the audio was being played, I was looking at the timings, and between the first second to 1 minute, 3 SOPs were completed, and between 1 minute, 20 seconds, 4 SOPs were completed.
Could we have the next one, please?
State to the polls and projecting of the statement of polls. I will resume this exercise at the headquarters under the shed. It will take us some time to fix up those things. So at 16 hours this afternoon, I'm going to ask that all of us repair to the headquarters where we can have a proper display.
This is the Commission's building?
Mr. Mingo, I am requesting respectfully that we start from
4001.
Started from 47.
No, sir. From 4001. We request. Sir,
is only mine and not yours.
Sir, that was dealt with at the court, sir. It makes no sense at this point to look at the statements of poll. We need to go back from 4001.
Thank you. By this we admitted as RR 34. Now, is it correct to say that this is where Mr. Mingo is saying that you all are, that everyone is going to have to go to GCOM's headquarters?
That is correct.
And is it also a recording indicating that someone was asking that the count start from 4001?
Yes. The other voice apart from Mr. Mingo was Mr. Anil Nandalal, who was also a party agent for the PPP. Prior to Mr. Mingo stating this, Mr. Nandalal was the first person that entered the room from the court. And at the same time, GCOM staff was still rapidly reading out the numbers for the various parties. And he attempted to speak to them to say that he has something to say in keeping whatever the decision was that the Chief Justice had said earlier. But the women ignored him and they kept reading it out. And that was where we had Mr. Yearwood from ANOG that interjected and said, let's give the floor to Mr. Mingo to say what he needed to say in relation to the decision that passed on to the court. And that was what we heard basically on this audio.
You heard, well, did you know whether the court had decided that the venue should change?
It did not. We weren't told that the court specifically stated that. But Mr. Mingo said that the venue that we're at didn't have the equipment for that, so it would be shifted to the GCOM headquarters. And that was where, when he said that, that was where, and he was going to continue at box number 4792. And Mr. Nandalal came in and said, let's restart it at 4001. But again, there was a discourse as to where it should actually, the display of the SOP should actually start from.
And you had told us yesterday that previously GCOM had been using a projector to project the numbers in that very building.
Yeah, no, that was not to project the SOP. It was really to project the spreadsheet of the person who was inputting the data so we can verify that what was being called out is exactly what was being inputted. So the projected image was not an SOP. It was just a spreadsheet.
And that had been in the tabulation room.
That is correct. And it was actually being used even when all of this was taking place. The screen was up and we were literally seeing that screen with the input and updated into the spreadsheet.
Right, so I think we are on to the last one.
To display the SOPs?
To display.
No, sir. Can we start with
that is incorrect. The court order was granted since Friday. When was the court order granted? 2 days ago.
Can we please start back at 4001?
Before you started this process.
Please explain to us what you have to say, Mr. Mingo, and let us know when you started and all of that. I let you know.
I am saying to you, sir, I will be starting from box 41.
No. 4192, 4792.
Continuing until we get to it.
May I, sir?
Where is the exercise going to do?
By this we admitted as RR 35.
Yes.
So where are we when this audio is made?
So we are still in the afternoon at the Ashman's building.
Afternoon of the 13th?
Of the 13th, yes.
Yeah.
This is when Mr. Mingo came back to the building after the court session. And this audio was showing again the discourse was where they should resume the tabulation. And of course, all of us wanted it to start from 4001. Ms. Mingo was saying that it should be box 4792, and that the female voice was Ms. Joseph, Carol Joseph from the AB and AFC, that was saying that Mr. Mingo should be the one to determine where it resumes.
Okay. These are my questions for this witness.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rasul.
No problem.
Thank you, Ms. Rasul. This is a convenient stage for us to take a break. 15 minutes.
Sydney.
That's right.